Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom365 podcast, episode number 3, Debunking the Myth of Success. And this is an interesting one because, for so many people, I think, and ourselves included here, Austin, it's like before you have any kind of success, like it's like this pie in the sky thing. And you're like, well, once I have success, everything's going to be perfect.
Right.
And it's just, but what is that? And I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around it because it's different. It's different for everybody.
Well, something you just said made me think of it. I think people view success as a destination.
Yeah.
Once I achieve that level of success, I'm done. And I think they almost like once I start my own business to do this thing, whatever that is, to sell information, to open that, whatever it is, right? I think they view it as a destination. And I think that's number one. That's a myth. Right. But whereas once you get to that level of success, and we're going to talk about the, different I think myths of success, that it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Look at you and I with our existing kind of YouTube content channels. We get up every day and we have to work every day. It's a journey. And I've always, because I've talked to friends and family and along the way, and I've always kind of felt like people view success as a destination.
Yeah,
and I
think
like
an end game.
Yeah, it's an end game. Well, once I do that, I get to quit my job, and then I'm done.
Once I get $1 million, I'll move to the beach, and everything will be perfect, and I'll live off that and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, really? Okay. That's just not. It's not what it is, and so I think that's number one. That's a myth, and but yeah,
I think something you said there, like it's about the journey, and I think what I've learned, and I want to get your thoughts on this too. You've been an entrepreneur a long time. It's finding pleasure in the journey, like enjoying the process rather than enjoying or having this idea of once I hit this certain point, then I'm done. Like you're never done.
Right. But I want to say something to what you just said, because I think, again, another myth is that, okay, let's say now I'm in my new business, or I'm in my new business that is wonderful. Yeah. They think that it's wonderful every day.
Right.
And it's not, life still happens.
Yep.
Life is still there. You still have good days. You still have bad days and all that. Again, that's why I love that we're doing kind of this debunking the myth scenario, is that there are days I get up, I don't want to record videos. I don't want to, I don't want to do that thing, but I do the work. But again, what
about this? What about the myth that, okay, well, yeah, Austin just got lucky.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a myth too. Like when you're on the outside looking in, you're just saying like, how did it go so well for him? And how did they just got lucky?
Because they're looking at that one thing. They're looking at like for me or you, they're looking at Zach's got a channel. He's got 100,000 subscribers, which you're just right there, right on the cusp,
just
right?
Shy, yeah.
Well, when you're listening
to this, of course, it's slowed down. Like right now, it's like I was gaining like 120 a day. Now it's like, nope, we're gonna go to 40 just to.
Yeah.
But again,
there you go.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
So, I actually was so funny you said that. I have a friend of mine who said he was talking to other friends, in my circle, and a couple of these other guys were literally said, Zach, Austin got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this friend of mine, I don't know if I ever told you the story. This friend of mine owns a car dealership in Dallas, Texas. And so one of the early ideas I was having when I was trying to start I didn't tell you this. One of the early ideas that I had when I was starting YouTube, I didn't know what kind of content I wanted to create, was I used to watch this guy do like car reviews. He'd walk around the cars, and I can't remember the guy's name now, but he's big. So I was like, hey, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
So I literally was going to my buddy's car lot every day.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't tell you this. I didn't
post any on YouTube.
Did, but I took them down because they weren't relevant to my content.
Right.
But I tried. My point is this. I did that for like 3 weeks. I literally was over there in his warehouse. So I was like grabbing that Ford truck or that Corvette and talking about it and doing all this. And I was trying, and it failed. There you go. Right.
Yep.
I failed it because I didn't get any views and all this kind of stuff. But then I was like, I don't want to do this every day. Right. So then I switched and I started doing the stock review stuff, which led me to the crypto stuff, etc. But my point to you is that my buddy, Chris, who was talking, had some other friends. He's like, oh, no, Austin, used to show up at my warehouse and kill himself recording videos of cars.
Yeah.
And then that didn't work. So he did something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that because here it is, right? Everybody sees where you're at in that moment in time now.
Right.
And they're like, well,
everything's just been gravy, man. Everything's just went your way.
Yeah. I mean, they don't see you when you were still doing your job, getting up at the 4 a.m. in the morning to record videos. And then you went off to, to do your professor gig.
Yeah.
And you were walking out of class or on a break and recording. They don't see all that.
Yeah.
And
I remember locking my door at the JOB and calling you and seeing what I missed.
Yeah, you would call me and you'd go, all right, what's going on in the market? I'd be like, is this? And
it pained me to know that I was out of the loop. And because I was so invested in that, because I saw the future in that, right? But yeah, I mean, to your point there too, it's like the first 3 months of me, my experience on YouTube, nobody watched. I did like self-help kind of stuff. I guess it was like kind of like motivational, like which books to read, what kind of stuff helped me.
Right.
3 months.
Yeah.
January, February, March.
I didn't know you did that.
Nobody watched. Nobody watched, dude. I had like 40 views or something. I don't even know. And I spent time, man. I would like craft it out.
You were excited if you got a video that had 100 views. You're like,
I
killed it. I killed it on that one.
Yeah. And I would like create all these notes. Like, I read this book and like, here's my major takeaways. And I would like sit there and like write it all out. Like for those of you guys who don't know what we do now, I mean, we just kind of report the news and we don't edit. Like we found this style that just works and people like it. But anyway, yeah, 3 months, man. I mean, 3 months went by and nobody watched.
Yeah. But that's the myth, right? The myth is that you arrived and you didn't have any trials and tribulations trying to, get to that point. I mean, I had the same thing when I owned the big.com back in the early 2000s. People would look at it and go, Austin's got this, 100 people working for him. He's got this big dot. I mean, but they didn't see every day I went in and all the bullshit I dealt with every single day.
100%.
Nobody sees that. They see the trappings of success or what they perceive are the trappings of success. And they go, I want that. But most people don't want to work for it.
Right. Right. So if you're talking to somebody right now who is trying to identify what success means to them, what's your criteria? Like, what's your?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. I think,
and I understand like everybody has a different form of success, but like, where do you start? Like, what kind of questions do you ask yourself if you're somebody working a 9 to 5 right now? You're not happy. You have the ability to adapt and change and try some things,
right?
But you just don't know where to start. Like you're stuck.
So the question is, how would that person identify how to be?
Where do they start? I mean, I guess in finding success.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. Ooh, that's a whole episode of podcast.
Right.
Somebody write that down. Where do you start? I think. Well, you start with something. I think that here's my simple list. You start with something that's not extremely capital intensive.
Yep.
That I don't have to go, but $10,000, $15,000 to like buy a franchise.
There's a myth right there. There's debunking a myth
that they had. The myth is that you have to put up a lot of money to invest.
You have to have a ton of money to start a business.
Yeah.
Like, I need 10 grand or else I can't start this.
Yeah. I've always tend to want to stay away from, owning a brick and mortar business, like a local little retail business in my town.
Yeah.
Because of inherently, there's a lot of things, it's rent, it's more expensive insurance and all that kind of stuff.
And just the way the world's going,
the way the world, it's all online now. So I think not capital intensive, something I can start in my part-time. Another myth, it doesn't have to be something that I love, that I'm like, there's that myth out there that there's the myth that all these gurus will say, if you're gonna do something, it needs to be something that you love and you're passionate about. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Okay.
I didn't know.
I agree with it on some level, but where are you coming from? I mean,
here's where I'm coming from, because you don't always know what you don't know. Here's an example.
That's fair.
I actually didn't know about me that I like to create until I was in it. So I like to create 3 or 4 videos a day with our style for the YouTube thing. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that about myself.
So you like doing 3 or 4, just not like 8.
Well, 10 some days. You get my point. I was trying to minimize that. But I didn't know that about myself.
Right.
But I think there's that, because here's the thing. There's that myth, again, that you can only start a business about something you're passionate about. That's not true. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it could start there, maybe, but it doesn't have to be within that and eventually
end there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be within that constraint, because I think here's what I think. That advice saying, okay, if you're going to start a business, it has to be something that you love or you're passionate about. I think that's a myth, because if you're only looking at it with those blinders, then that's all you're looking at. And there's other stuff that's bigger than that.
It makes it harder to get started.
Yeah. And let's call it what it is. I mean, I've said this in other episodes. My dad had a saying, making money is boring. You could still start a business to do X or Y or Z, and that provides an income. Maybe it's not, and again, it's outside of your job. It gets you out of the out of the rat race, out of the cubicle wars, all that stuff. And then you can, by the way, you have money. Now you can go do the stuff you love.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, I'm just saying, do you agree or disagree? Do you think you have to be passionate about the business you start? You didn't know you were passionate about making content on crypto.
No, not on crypto, but I knew. So I think you're right. I think we get bogged down in like this passion thing and everything's just going to be perfect.
It's a big myth. That's why
But here's what I would say. Like, maybe not passionate about it, but knowing like that you're good at it.
And you have to have an interest in it.
Right. I mean, so like in terms of creating content, like my background is in broadcasting. My background is in communication and public speaking and those sort of things.
You're unique in that capacity. You're using
skill sets.
Yeah.
But so are you. I mean, those are what your skill sets are too. I mean, as far as I know, like you're not a guy in the back of a lab crunching numbers.
No, that's
right. And
not who I am.
That's not who I am either.
Yeah.
But like, that's why I wouldn't start like a data analytics company tomorrow. Like I guess I'm not passionate about it, but really I'm not good at it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
so like
me either.
Find out what you're good at, use your strengths. And I guess passion usually kind of comes with that. But I agree. I mean, I think what you're kind of alluding to is like, if you have this idea in your head that you got to find this perfect thing that you're passionate about, it's got to be the perfect way to start a business today. It's so much harder to get started. And going back to our last episode, you have to fail a little bit along the way.
Yeah.
And let that process play out and evolve into something that works for you. And
and I think again, therein lies another myth, right? I think the myth is outsider people looking in about starting a type of business is that they think that they're going to be successful off the bat.
Yeah.
I think there's different levels of success, and you've got to, that's why I love starting businesses that are not really capital intensive, don't require a lot of money to start. And because I've tried them along the way. I've failed more times than not in the years after I sold my big.com. I failed at different things. I had an SEO company that search engine optimization consulting company. I actually got clients, but I failed at it because I considered it a failure. Because I got into it. I'm like, I don't like doing this.
Yeah.
I consider that a failure, but I had to try it. I had almost no money in it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason but there was things about it I didn't know until I was in it.
Right.
And I think that's another myth is that you don't always know what you're getting into, but you've got to be willing to fail.
Right.
But I think the key is, and I'll end on this note, at least for this part, you've got to also be willing, but if you're going to fail, you've got to minimize how big those failures are and not have them be big financial failures where you put a lot of money into it or whatever it is. I think that's, again, a myth, right?
I would say another myth too, to having success. Okay. So I'm going to walk around a little bit. So number one, like we have this idea in our head that like, you got to be a lawyer, a doctor, like these jobs that like we're kind of groomed as like, younger people going to college. It's like, okay, so like success is doctor driving BMW. Success is
it's not it.
Lawyer who is, wearing suit and tie and, goes out with the people after work and man, they're cool. They're having success. Right.
Yeah.
So along those same lines, if we look at that, those people, and I'm not saying these are bad jobs. I'm not saying being a doctor or lawyer, we need that. Right? We need these jobs to make the world go around. They're important and those people do well and they make money. But what they do is in those professions, they trade their time for money.
Amen.
They trade their time for money. So one of the big myths is that you have to do it that way. You have to trade your time for money. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to put the time in and work hard. Right. Don't get me wrong here. Like we both put the time into YouTube every single day. However, when we make a video, that thing works for us.
Yes.
So we could make 4 or 5 videos like we do in the morning and go play golf.
Right.
And meanwhile, those videos are making us money while we play golf.
Correct.
We're not trading our time directly for money. And I think that's a big one that people can't wrap their head around, especially if they're already in that 9 to 5. I mean, this could be a whole nother one. The 9 to 5 is a trap. I mean, that's another episode, right?
I think it is.
It's a big trap.
Yeah.
I mean, we're groomed to think that this is how you do it. And again, there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
But if you're watching this podcast,
or listening,
you're open to the idea that maybe there's something else out there. And that's what we're talking about.
To your point, I have a friend of mine who's an attorney.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who is a doctor.
Exactly.
I have a friend of mine who's a CEO of a very large company. All three of them on separate different occasions, Zach, have approached me and said, literally, man, Austin, I wish that I could have what you have, where you don't
successful.
And they're very successful.
Yeah.
I mean, these are individuals that make good money. They drive the right cars. They live all that stuff you just said, but they are trading their time for money. A doctor, again, I'm not minimizing being a doctor. I applaud them.
Never be able to do it.
I applaud them. I applaud attorneys. We're not minimizing what you do for that, but they've all said, I wish I had what you had, where I could have my days, do as I wish, and then have control. Again, Freedom365, right? That's where we came up with this. So I think that's a myth. Okay, so I don't know, what are some other? By the way, you can tell we don't have notes here. We're just going. We're just going. So what's another myth associated with owning or running your own business? That it's easy.
Yeah,
I think it's a myth. It can be easy. I think easy is relative.
Yeah.
I think you got to be. But you got to work at it every single day. That's a myth that people, I think it's just a myth. There's that myth that they think it's a destination. I really think that's a big myth. I know we opened with that, but yeah.
I think another myth, and this is something I think a lot of people, so let's just say you've started a business.
Okay.
And I think one of the myths is like, you have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
Like you have to figure it all out. Like, okay, this is my business. So I think a lot of people fail to realize, like, even when you're running your own business, you can still reach out to people who are in your similar shoes, or even something a little bit different, and glean from that. Like, so I feel like when people start their own business, they feel like they're kind of siloed, and they're like, okay,
they're isolated.
You
are isolated.
You are. But if you realize that you could still reach out, because that's the one thing you lose by starting a business, right? You don't have like the office camaraderie. Correct. You don't have a team per se.
Yes.
So like the myth is I got to do it all by myself, and I got to figure it all out.
But I mean, I think you're touching on a really key component here. The myth is that that you have to do it by yourself. But I think it's bigger than that. Because you and I are a great example, right? We both have our respective YouTube channels, but I think that the collaboration that we have, where we talk to each other every day about the business, helps to keep us engaged in that. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I mean, you have friends and family who have no clue on a day-to-day level what you do. My wife doesn't really understand. She knows I make content. She knows what I do, but she doesn't really get it on a day-to-day level, what I'm going through. Yep. And so having somebody that you can talk to about, hey, this is what's going on here. So again, advice for what it's worth, whatever type of business you start or you're getting involved in, look around, reach out to other people who are kind of associated or parallel. Like, let's say you want to start a gym, or a fitness business. Yeah. Find other gym owners and fitness owners as an example that are successful, and say, look, hey, we're not competitors. You're on that part of town. I'm over here, whatever it is. And just try to start relationships, because I think that's a really big one. That's a good one. Yeah. Another myth is that your family and your friends are going to support you.
Yeah.
You go ahead, man.
Oh man. I mean, they're going to think you're crazy.
They're going to think
you're crazy.
It's going to come from a place of love, but they're going to try to shoot you down
100%
in one way or the other.
The one thing that entrepreneurs have is this idea that they have to step out of their comfort zone. A lot of people can't wrap their head around that. Like, a lot of people like comfort. Okay. For instance, what do people talk about when they're switching jobs in the traditional world? Oh, but the benefits are going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
That's a trap.
Yes,
that's a freaking trap. It's like, I'm going to get paid $5,000 more, and the benefits are fantastic. Yeah. And they match my 401k an additional 2.5%. Like, those are the sort of things that we've been groomed in our traditional system,
culture,
right, to cherish, to worship, to kind of, you know what I mean? To like, yeah, this is good. So like when you say like you're going to leave all of that sort of stuff behind, that comfort, that backbone, right? That salary, that 401k, when you say that to people who haven't, really thought about entrepreneurship and they're going to be taken back. And a lot of times it's your family members, like you said.
Okay, I'm going to throw you under the bus. You don't even know what I'm about to say. Give our viewers and our listeners, your journey real quick. You started the YouTube thing. You were starting big. You were still doing your professor thing. Yeah. And then you were like, one day you're like, you know what? I'm quitting my professor gig.
Crazy, yeah.
Where I was making, you were, if you want to tell them what you're making, whatever, but I was making this, but I really want you to tell the component of the story of your mom and your dad and your friends and your sisters.
Yeah.
Like when they were looking at you going, what?
It was a whirlwind.
That's what I want you to tell them.
So back in 2021, I first got monetized on YouTube in May.
That means where YouTube gets a cut of ad revenue from YouTube, by the way. That's
correct.
What monetized means.
And at that time, it wasn't like enough money to quit my job. By the way, at that time, I was making about 50 grand a year. Very small school as a professor. So just started on YouTube, got monetized in May. So I'm kind of just trudging along. May, June, July. Took a new job in August to make 60 grand a year. Because again, I went from 50 to 60. Better benefits.
Better money.
Wow, we got to do this, right? This is amazing. So I go to Indianapolis. I moved there in August. And I just took the job in August. And I quit my job in December. So I was only at the new job.
And who told you were going to quit soon? Me.
It was funny. By that time, Austin and I were talking every day. I was still working the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I was going in every single day. I'd get up early, make 3 videos, go to work, come home. That's all I did. I had no life. Seriously. That's something else, you got to sacrifice things like that.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother discussion. So anyway, I get to the new job in August. And I think it was probably about September, October. And I said, I'm probably going to play this out throughout the whole year.
That's right. You did say that. You said you were going to stay there the entirety of 2022.
Right.
Yeah.
Stay there throughout the year. And he's like, and I remember Austin was like, dude, you're going to quit before January. Like literally, he was like, you're going to quit before January. And I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was probably August or whatever. So September comes around and all of a sudden, like the business is growing.
Yeah.
It helped that the crypto market was booming at the time too. So like views were up. Things were going well, right? October comes around. I have a big month. And I remember late October. And again, mind you, I just started this new job in August, literally. Right. And I lived 2 houses down from my boss.
This is wild. 2 houses down.
Yeah, I lived 2 houses down from my boss. And she was super cool, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rebecca. She was super cool. But I'm sitting there like late October. And it was just one of those kind of moments where I was like, I'm going to quit my job. Like, I need to quit my job. And it got to the point where I was making enough that it was above my monthly salary.
Right.
And I had about 3 months of data and I knew like things were going extremely well. But even if they dialed back, I was like, I have more time if I go all in on this.
But now downshift to, okay, you're starting to have this realization, right? Because it's fantastic, but I want you to now tell the story about you called the mom, the dad, the whatever, and you started to, hey, I'm thinking, and I want, because
I'll get there. Yeah. So I'll finish this story real quick with the work stuff too, because this is pretty interesting. So I think it was November. Yeah, it was like November 1st or whatever. And I walked in, and it's always an awkward conversation. Like when you go quit your job, there's no easy way to break the ice, right? And Rebecca was cool, and I said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And she said, "Yeah, no problem." Again, I just started in August, like literally just started this new job, and I lived 2 houses down from my boss. And I said, I didn't know how to say it. It was like awkward as hell. I was like, Rebecca, I have to quit. Like literally, I said something like that. Like, I have to quit. Like she was just like, okay, well. Did something happen? Like, is something wrong? I said, no, everything's great. I just had this little side thing and it's going well. And I got to dedicate my full time. She said, I kind of figured. I said, what do you mean? She's like, well, some of the students have been talking about you on YouTube.
They already knew.
They already knew. And I didn't know. So it's funny how the algorithm works. They must have been popping up or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, okay, cool. And and lo and behold, I mean, she was super cool about it. Really quick story. And then we'll come back to the parents real quick and family and stuff and what they were saying. I ended up giving all of my belongings to my boss.
Because you had
all
furniture and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
she was a single mom. She had 3 kids, and she could use all the stuff. And I literally just paid $6,000 to move all the stuff from North Carolina to there. And I'm like, I'm not paying another $6,000 to move all this stuff.
Move it again.
Like the stuff was less expensive than the $6,000 it would take me to move it. It was like Big Lots couches and stuff. It was good stuff. It was okay. It wasn't, but so that was a kind of funny story. Like 2 weeks later, I'm literally helping her move all of my belongings in her house, and she like looked at me. She was like, "This is like the weirdest thing ever. Like you'd like just started this job, now you're giving me all your shit." Like I was just like, "Yeah, hey, man, it is what it is." You know,
helped her. So now
at the
mom
same
and dad,
time, at the same time in October when I had this realization, November, what have you,
your family.
I remember I told my dad first because I knew his reaction would be a little bit better than my mom's or whatever, and he was like, "Okay. Hey man, I trust your decision." You know, he's kind of the dad thing. Like, yeah, you're on your own. You do your thing. I'm here to support you.
But it was like, what did he like? Are you going to be okay financially? Are you making a bad choice? Your dad didn't really go there. Your mom did, right? He
kind of went to the point of like, are you sure? Like, are you sure that have you thought this through?
Yeah.
Have you what I mean? Like, just making sure that I've fully like understood what this means, and like I have to pay for my benefits. I'm like, I get all that. I got it. You know. And my mom thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. My mom was like, "You're freaking nuts." I mean, she's an Italian woman, so she's throwing F-bombs in there. She's like, "You're effing crazy. Like, you're giving up? You just started this job. You just finished your PhD and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "I'm gonna do it though." You know, it is what it is. And but yeah, I mean,
but it was from a place of love.
It was.
She was
very easily. I could have let that deter me from making that move.
Exactly.
Right.
So and a lot of people would have.
Yeah. But I understood kind of where I was and I had to do it. I mean, it is what it is. But
I think that's again, right. That's a myth, is that everybody in your life, your family, your friends, your spouse, or whomever it is going to support you.
Yeah.
And I think that
they're going to think you're crazy.
They're going to think you're crazy. I mean, my story is less impactful because I've been on my own for 22 years, you know, as owning different businesses. And I walked into my wife. I just sold a company at the end of 2020. This was and I just said, "Hey, I'm going to teach myself YouTube." And my wife literally looked at me and laughed and went, "Well, of course you are." You know, I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to make any money for 4 or 5 months because I'm literally going to teach myself." And I put my head down and I learned the algorithm and I did all this stuff and I taught myself that. And then, and then the rest is history as far as kind of how the evolution of how that, and there was failures in that. I had bad information on that and you have to, I think another myth is that you educate yourself on whatever it is you think you're going to do. And then you're good. I can go. Nope. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But then you have to have on-the-job training, or you have to literally live inside of your new business or your new thing, and you're going to have failures inside of whatever this entrepreneurial endeavor is.
You can't just read a book or take a course and be done.
You got to live
That's a good starting point.
Yeah,
it's a good starting point to like get an idea of what you're in for and how to do the basics. Right. But after that, it's trial and error, man.
But I think that, Zach, goes back to something you talked about earlier, is if you can find somebody who's willing to share with you and who's find somebody who's already achieved a certain level of success in whatever entrepreneurial endeavor you're in, then if they're willing to kind of help you, then that obviously shortens the window.
Fast track, man.
Fast track. You reached out to me and said, "Hey, will you help me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so, that's that.
And that was super cool, dude, because I mean, at that time, you didn't know if I could actually offer you something in return.
But I didn't care about that. But that's a valid point.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think people would maybe not reach out to you in this example because, well, what can I offer? And they're afraid to reach out. It's like, understand the worst thing that can happen is Austin didn't answer my email, or he just said,
but
"Hey man, I'm too busy right now."
But here's
no risk in that, dude. There's no risk at all.
There's
literally
nobody
risk.
Else ever, no other YouTube crypto content creator ever reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to help me?" You're the only one who ever did that.
Yeah.
And I said yes to you, and we've developed a friendship and we work together. But cool. And along the way, you and I, here's the other thing. You and I have paid it forward. You and I have searched out
100%
other, crypto YouTube content creators in this example and said, hey, we're willing to help you.
In our field, in our line of work, or whatever you want to say, what we do, it's so important to collaborate because everybody, you can learn something from so many different
people. And we're not competitors really at the end of the day.
I mean, YouTube is a global platform. I mean, how many people are on Earth now? Almost 8 billion people.
A lot.
So if you're going to YouTube, here's a myth. This is YouTube specific, and then we'll probably wrap it up because we actually got to check out of our Airbnb right now.
Oh yeah.
But this is a myth within YouTube that, somebody's doing that. I guess this is everywhere. Somebody already does that. The market's oversaturated.
No, it's not.
How many times does that deter people from trying something? Well, there's people already doing that. I'll never be able to.
Okay, you just gave me another idea.
Yes, you will. Especially if it's online, you can find an audience. I promise.
I don't care how many people are doing it.
I promise.
So that's a good myth. Here's another myth. Another myth is I have nothing to offer that is of anything of value.
Right.
Okay. So this is specifically like in the world of like you're looking, let's say you're looking at like, okay, I want to create a business, and maybe I want to create a business where I'm consulting or I'm creating maybe a course or I'm creating a product to sell.
Imposter syndrome. Like you feel like an imposter.
That's actually cool. I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah. But people think, so here's the thing. Every single one of you that's either A, watching this video, hello, or B, listening to this on a podcast, you have a skill set that somebody else will pay for, will wants to know about. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care.
100%.
Literally, I'm not kidding you. I knew a guy who wrote a book, an ebook on how to build a chicken coop. You can't make this shit up.
I crushed it.
And he did well. That's my point. And I'm not minimizing chicken coops. I'm just saying that's how specific, narrow is that?
Yeah.
I know a guy who wrote an ebook about how to create a potato gun. I didn't know this was a thing. It's like how you can create a gun that will shoot a potato. I don't know. I'm just saying. My point is this, is that people think that they have nothing to offer value. And here's the other thing. Even if you don't know, let's say you want to do something, if you don't know anything about that, go learn about that.
Yeah.
You and I right now at some point are going to create a course on how to start a YouTube channel.
Right.
Because people want to know that.
Right.
And there's 8,000 other YouTube courses out there, but people will want to know that because, hey, Austin and Zach might have something unique to teach us.
100%. I mean, it's funny how I look at the world now. I look at everybody as like, everybody could be a YouTuber if they wanted to be. Isn't it kind of funny? I mean,
everybody,
because like literally everybody has a passion, like what, or everybody has something they're good at, right? Like, what do you care about? Okay, it's coin collection. You have a
coin collection.
Yeah, you know about coins. Okay, you know about horror movies. Like, okay, you do reviews on horror movies. Like,
exactly.
Literally anything and everything. You can carve out a business.
Reviews on horror movies. There you go.
You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's tied to something that they love, and you can talk about it. I mean, that's just one business. I mean, YouTube's great for that, but I think we covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Where do you want to kind of wrap it up?
So we would usually at this point tell you what episode 4 is going to be. I have no earthly idea what episode 4 is going to be. So
we will have some guests coming on.
We're making this shit up as we go right now.
Let us know what you guys like.
Yeah.
What you want more of. Let us know if you're watching this on YouTube. Drop in the comments down below. If you're listening to this on like any of the major platforms, come over and follow us on Twitter and at your Freedom365 and let us know. Like DM us, drop a comment on one of our tweets or whatever. We want to hear from you. Yeah, we've got guests coming. Like we've got a really good friend of ours who is an emergency room doc. Yep. We just saw him and amazing, really cool guy. Very, very interesting story. We got him as a guest. We're going to have other amazing guests. We're just in the process of lining them up. So I'm going to let you take us home here and take us out, Zach. Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening and or watching. This has been a lot of fun. It's episode number 3, many, many more to come. And again, we want to hear from you. Find a way to reach out to us, whether you're watching this or listening to this. Follow us on Twitter at your Freedom365 and keep at it. Keep going. We'll see you in the next video and the next audio podcast. See, I got that YouTube brain. We'll see you in the next video, right? All right. We'll see you guys.